everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm out with yet another beginner-friendly crochet tutorial, and this time I'm going to teach you how to make this super cozy and cute crochet raglan sweater. As always, I have made sure that this tutorial is going to be as beginner-friendly as possible, so I'm really going into as much detail as I can with every single stitch and every single step to make sure that everyone is able to follow along. And besides that, I can also promise you that this project is going to be very satisfying to work on because it works up super quickly. For me, it took approximately 2 days to actually finish this sweater. Of course, this is not a race, but it's quite satisfying that you can already see the finished version quite quickly. And the reason for that is that I will be using chunky yarn and 5mm crochet hook, so it just gives you like an extra speed. But yeah, I hope that you will enjoy, and by learning this method, it will open up your crochet journey to loads of different options, and you will really learn a lot and will be able to make all sorts of different creations in the future. But now, without further ado, let's jump into it. Here are the materials that I will be using. Here I have some yarn, which is basically a wool blend in 2 different colors. And just in case if you are wondering, here are some more specs about this specific brand that I will be using. And of course, you would also need a crochet hook. For this project, I will be using 5mm hook, and you will also need scissors as well as some stitch markers. But now let's get started. So first we will be starting by doing some chains, and our first step is to do a slip knot. So for that, I normally just grab my yarn like this, then I twist it to create a cross, and then I just grab yarn and pull it through this loop to create a knot and a bigger loop. And then we can grab our crochet hook and just pull it through, and then we can just adjust the size of this loop so it actually matches our hook. So now we have our slip knot, and we can proceed further with doing some chains. And in total we will have to do 72 chains, and that will be the same number of chains for any size that you are going for. And to do a chain, you just have to yarn over and then pull the yarn through the loop that you have on your hook like this, and just keep on doing that until you have created 72 chains in total. And meanwhile, while you're doing these chains, you can also place in stitch markers. So here the first one comes in the very first chain, then after that I'm doing 17 chains, and in the following again placing a stitch marker, then after that again doing 17 chains, and then in the next chain again placing a stitch marker. Or if you wish, you can basically just do this afterwards once you have done all the chains that you have to do. And now here I have done all 72 chains. So we have a stitch marker, then 17 chains, then chain with a stitch marker, again 17 in between, stitch marker, 17 in between, stitch marker, and 17 in between. So this should come together in total to 72 chains. And now the next step for us would be to actually connect the start and the end together. So in that way we will kind of establish a square. So here I'm just trying to shape it, and this is how it would come together. So we are basically creating a square here, and then after that we will just keep on working in rounds. And now to connect the start and end together, we first just have to make sure that these chains are actually straightened out. So just go all the way through to make sure that nothing is twisted, and once you are sure about that, we can proceed with connecting together. And to connect together, we will be going through this very first chain where we have our first stitch marker, and we will be doing a slip stitch to connect the end and the start together. So to do that, here I'm just going through this first chain like this, then grabbing yarn and pulling it through, and then pulling it through the loop that we already had on our hook like this. So now we have connected this together, and we have established this square shape basically. So now that this is done, we can proceed further with working on the first round. And basically the places where we have stitch markers are the places where we will place corners inside during the first round. And to begin working on the first round, we first just have to chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3, and in this case this chain of 3 will count as a stitch, as a double crochet stitch, and that will be the process during the whole project. Whenever we will have to start a new round with 3 chains, it will always count as 1 double crochet. And then we can continue with working on this first corner, and since this already counts as a stitch, we will have to add 4 more double crochet stitches here inside this first space with this stitch marker, and then then in total it will count as 5 double crochets. So to do a double crochet, you just have to yarn over, then go through this space here, then grab yarn and pull it up to have 3 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through the first 2 like this, then yarn over again and pull through remaining 2 like that. So this is 1 double crochet, and now we just have to do 3 more double crochets inside this very same space. So here I have 1 more, and then just adding 2 more like this inside the same space like that. So now here technically in total we have 5 stitches, and this basically counts as our first corner that we have added for this first round. And now we can take this stitch marker out, and basically we can just place it here inside the middle stitch, because during the next round that is where we are going to place our corner during the second round. So here I'm just moving it to the middle stitch of these 5 stitches that we have, and this will basically serve as a reminder during the next round to place 5 double crochets inside this space. And then once that is done, we can proceed further with working stitches inside all the chains that we have here until we reach the following stitch marker, where we will again place 5 double crochets to create a corner. But before we get there, we just have to add 1 double crochet stitch here inside every chain that we have here. So I'm just going inside every chain and adding 1 double crochet stitch inside each of them. So 1 double crochet goes inside each chain that we have here, and we are doing that until we reach the stitch marker. So now here I have reached the next stitch marker. So as I said, we are just doing 5 double crochet stitches inside the same space. So I'm just starting to work already on them, and here I have 2, so 3 more left to do. So this is 3, then adding the 4th one and also the 5th one. So this is our second corner with 5 double crochets inside the same space, and then again we are just removing this stitch marker and placing it here inside the middle stitch, so the 3rd stitch of this corner like this. And then after that the process is the same. We just have to continue adding 1 double crochet inside every single chain until we reach the stitch marker, and again in the stitch markers we have to do 5 double crochets. So do the same process all the way around until you reach this point where we started, and that is where I'm going to meet you back again. And so now here the first round is completed, and this is how it looks. So now we just have to connect it together, and again we will be doing that with a slip stitch, and we will do that here inside the 3rd chain, so basically on top of our first double crochet that we have here. So I just have to go through this 3rd chain here and do a slip stitch. So for that, just grabbing yarn, pulling it through and pulling it through the loop that we already had on our hook like that. So now this first round is completed and it's also connected together, and now we can proceed with the second round, and basically the process will be pretty much the same. Whenever we will place a stitch on a stitch here on the sides, we will just have to do 1 double crochet inside every single stitch, and then once we reach the stitch marker, this is where we will have to place in our corner, so basically 5 double crochets inside the same space. So first, as always, we have to start our round with 3 chains, so 1, 2 and 3, and these 3 chains as always will count as 1 double crochet. And then we are moving further with the next stitch, so here inside this stitch we just have to place 1 double crochet like that, and then we have reached our stitch marker, and inside here we have to place 5 double crochets because we are placing in there our next corner or first corner for this second round. So here inside the very same space I'm just adding 5 double crochet stitches. So here I have 5 double crochets, and then if you wish you can just remove this stitch marker and place it in the middle stitch of these 5 stitches, so inside the 3rd stitch basically, but if you can follow along without them, it's also fine. So now this corner is completed, and then we are just proceeding further with stitches on the side and adding 1 double crochet inside every single stitch that we have, and we are doing that until we reach the next stitch marker where we will have to place another corner, so 5 double crochets. So as I said, the process is pretty much repetitive, and you just have to keep on repeating these steps. And here I am at the end of round 2. So again, we just want to connect it together by doing a slip stitch here inside the third chain. So I'm just going through this chain and doing a slip stitch in here like this. So now it's connected, and from now on basically the process will be that we just have to keep on repeating this second round that we did until these corners here that we have on the side are able to meet under your armpit once you are trying on this piece. So just keep on adding extra rounds, and in my case I will be changing color after every 3 rounds. So now I will just proceed further with round 3, and then when I'm done with it, I will meet you back again so we can change the color together, and I can show you how we can do that. And now here I am done with the third round. So this is where we want to change the color. So I'm just grabbing my blue yarn, and we will be basically doing that while connecting this third round together. So here I have completed my last stitch of this round, and before we are connecting it, I'm actually going to attach this yarn. So basically just tying it around our existing yarn. So I'm just grabbing it and tying it and making a secure knot, and then I'm just pushing this knot closer to the hook like this and just making sure that it's secure like that. And now we can perform our slip stitch. So I'm just going through this third chain like this, and now instead of using our white yarn, I'm going to grab the yarn that we just attached and do a slip stitch with this like that. So now we have connected this round together, and we have also changed the color to this blue one. So now we can actually cut off our white yarn because we are not going to use it for now. So I'm just cutting it off like that, and now starting to work on the fourth round by using this new color that we just attached. So this is how you can do color changes, and as always, you're more than welcome to change them frequently if you wish and use multiple colors if you want, or if not, you can just do the whole project in one color. It's totally up to you. But now just keep on repeating, adding new rounds until the corners are able to meet underneath your armpit. And now here I have done 9 rounds in total, and as you can see, the corners are meeting each other under the armpit once I'm trying this piece on. So now we can actually proceed further, and our next step would be that we would just continue working on the rounds for the body. And first, to do that, we just have to fasten off, and here I have completed my 9th round. And of course, if in your case with 9 rounds the corners are not meeting each other, you just have to keep on adding extra rounds. But now, since this is enough for me, I will just fasten off after I have completed this round that let me the corners to be able to meet each other. So for fastening off, I'm just chaining 1, then making this loop a little bit longer, then I'm just grabbing my scissors and cutting off yarn, and as it's cut off, I'm just tightening it in a secure knot like this. So now we have completed the rounds for establishing like the main part before we are able to proceed further with working on the rounds for the body. And to start working on that, we would just have to fold or work like this. So this is basically the shape as it looks once we are wearing this piece, and here you can see this is where we have our corners. So these are basically the armpit parts. And so now we can actually remove these stitch markers because they won't be kind of necessary for now, and we just have to remember which one exactly is the corner stitch. But that should be pretty easy since we have worked on these rounds for a while already. And now I'm just turning my work like this in a way that it is the most comfortable for me to proceed further with the next rounds. And our first step would be to attach yarn, and we will be doing that here inside the middle corner stitch from both of these corners. So that is where I'm going to attach yarn, and since I'm changing color after every 3 rounds, I'm just grabbing my blue yarn here. So I'm going through this middle stitch of this corner in here like that, and then also through the middle stitch of the other corner on the other side here like this. So now I have gone through both of these corners in here, and this is where I'm attaching yarn, and I'm basically just looping it through and then making a secure knot like this. So now this yarn is attached, and now we just have to begin our work. And as always, we are just pulling up a loop and then chaining 3. So 1, 2, 3, and as always this chain of 3 counts as 1 double crochet. And then after that we are just proceeding with doing 1 double crochet stitch on top of every stitch that we have from the previous round. So pretty much the same thing as we have been doing throughout this project before. The only difference is that now we won't have any corners, and it will just be basic rounds with just 1 double crochet on top of every single stitch. And now during this first round of the body part, we are just adding 1 double crochet until we meet the corners on the other side. So I'm just continuing with doing this until I will reach this part here, and this is again where we will have to connect the corners together. So I'm just continuing with doing double crochets until I reach that point, and that is where I'm going to meet you back again. So now, while we will be completing this stitch here in the corners, we will also connect both of them together. And to do that, here I'm just starting to work on this double crochet, and I'm going through this first corner here, and then also going through the same corner here on the other side. And then I'm grabbing my yarn, pulling it through, and then just completing the double crochet stitch. So now this corner is connected together here like that by doing a double crochet, and then after that we are again just proceeding further with adding 1 double crochet stitch on top of every single stitch that we have here. So literally the same process as before, and we are doing that until we meet this point here. So we are just continuing here and doing that until we reach this point where we attached yarn and begin our round with doing 3 chains. So that is where we will complete this round. So I can meet you back there again so we can connect it together and proceed further with the following round. And so here I have reached the beginning where we started. So now we just have to connect it together with the slip stitch in the same way as we have been doing that throughout this project, like this. So now this first round is completed, and this is how it looks on me. So now what we can do is that we can just proceed further with adding extra rounds in the same way as we just did. And basically the amount of rounds that you want to do or need to do depends on the length that you want for your sweater to have. So feel free to just try it on as you go and measure how long you want it to be, because it's totally up to you or up to the size that you are going for. And here I am done with adding a rose for the body part, and this is how it looks on me. And in total for myself I ended up doing 24 rows. And now that this is done, we can proceed further with working on the arm side, and for that the process will be basically the same as it was for the body. So here I'm just grabbing my project and kind of like opening the armhole that we have here, and first we just have to attach yarn, and we will be doing that in here underneath the armpit, so in the same spot where we attached yarn before. So to begin, we just have to go through this same space where we attached yarn before. So I'm just going through both of these stitches like this, and then I'm just grabbing my yarn and attaching it by making a secure knot. So first I'm just pulling it through and then just making a knot in here like this, and then once it's attached we can begin our work. So first I'm just going to pull up a loop here like that, and then I'm just chaining 3, and as always it counts as 1 double crochet. And then after that we can proceed with doing double crochets inside every single stitch that we have here. And basically it's the same thing as we had for the body part. We just have to keep on working in rounds by adding 1 double crochet inside every single stitch that we have. And then once the round is completed. We just have to connect it together by doing a slip stitch inside the third chain that we have in the very beginning here, because it counts as a double crochet. Then we connect it and proceed further with the next round. And again, it's totally up to you how many rounds you want to do. The main point is that the length of the arms match the length that you are going for, or the size that fits you the best. But otherwise, just keep on repeating the same process as we had for the body part, but in this case we are just building the length for the arms. And here the first round for the arm is completed, and as you can see, we are slowly starting to build length also for this part. Here I have already prepared one sleeve, and in total for it I did 33 rounds, so now it's just left for me to also prepare the other sleeve and make it in the exactly same length. And then once you have completed your sweater, the last part would be to weave in all the loose ends that you might have. So with your work being faced inside out, you can just grab your crochet hook, or you can also use your darning needle if you wish, but I just normally do it with my crochet hook, and then we can just weave in all the loose ends. So what I do is that I just normally go in the stitches in the back, and then I just grab this loose end that I have and just weave it through the stitches so it's not visible and not hanging, and our work is looking pretty also from the inside. So just do that with all the loose ends that you have, and then your work will be done. And here is the finished sweater, and this is how it turned out and looks on me. I really think that it turned out to be super cozy and cute, and this chunky yarn that I used gives it a nice and fluffy look, which is super appropriate for the season. So that was it from me today. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that this tutorial is going to be useful for you in case you are planning to recreate this sweater. And soon I will also try to prepare a tutorial for how to create ribbed cuffs and hems, so that is something to look forward to. But if you did enjoy this video, then please give me a big thumbs up, and if you're new here, then please subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye!